Hello, my dear friend. Welcome to English Legacy. Today's topic is chocolate. The story begins about 4,000 years ago in Central America. The Maya people discovered the cacao tree, and this discovery played an important role in their lives. For them, cacao was not just a food, it was something sacred. They used it in ceremonies. They believed it was a bridge between them and the gods. But what they drank was nothing like the chocolate we know today. They ground cacao beans and mixed them with water. They added pepper and spices. The result was a bitter, foamy, cold drink. When the Aztec civilization arrived, cacao gained even greater importance. The Aztecs valued cacao so much that they used it as money. 10 cacao beans could buy a rabbit. 100 beans could buy a slave. It was used to pay taxes. It was included in gifts presented to the ruler. That's how chocolate began. Not sweet, but bitter. Not solid, but liquid, and only for the rich. The Aztecs believed cacao had medicinal effects. They thought it reduced fatigue and strengthened the heart. They gave cacao to soldiers going to war for long journeys. They carried it as both money and food. Its ceremonial use was even more important. In sacrifice rituals, birth and death ceremonies, cacao drink was always present. This drink stood on the boundary between worlds. All of this continued silently for thousands of years, until Europeans discovered the American continent. In the 1520s, a Spanish man named Hernán Cortés entered Aztec lands. He saw cacao. At first he was not very impressed, but he noticed something. These people valued this as much as gold. Cortés was a wise man. When he returned to Spain, he took cacao beans and recipes with him. Europeans added their own touch. The biggest change was sugar. When the bitter drink met sugar, it became something completely different. The Spanish kept this secret for about 100 years. They did not share the recipe. It was a major commercial advantage. Eventually, the secret spread. Italy, France, the Netherlands, and England discovered this drink. Cocoa houses opened in London. Businessmen, writers, and politicians gathered there. In the 19th century, everything changed. A Dutch chemist made it possible to produce cocoa powder. Then, English producers combined cocoa powder, cocoa butter, and sugar into a solid form. It was 1847. At that moment, the world changed. Chocolate was no longer drunk, it was eaten. Industrial machines came into play. Prices dropped. Production increased. Chocolate became accessible to everyone. But this abundance demanded a heavy price. Cacao production requires a lot of human labor. Cacao trees are delicate plants. It is impossible to harvest them with machines. Every bean is collected by hand. Every fruit is cut with a knife. When Europeans took over the Americas, they forced native people to work. But the diseases they brought killed tens of millions. As a solution, they turned to Africa. The transatlantic slave trade lasted for centuries. About 12 million Africans were forcibly taken to the Americas. These people lived without any rights on cacao and sugar plantations. They were sold, beaten, killed. Chocolate was at the center of this system. In the 19th century, slavery began to be legally abolished. But the story did not end. It only changed its name. In the early 20th century, a major scandal broke out in a Portuguese colony called São Tomé. Workers on cacao plantations were not officially slaves, but the conditions were exactly the same. No right to escape, no wages, no freedom. A British journalist exposed this to the world. Major chocolate companies faced backlash. Years later, they announced they would stop buying cacao from that region. In the early 2000s, major reports appeared in international media. It was revealed that child labor was used in cacao farms in West Africa. It wasn't just child labor. There were cases pointing to child trafficking and forced labor. Nestlé, Mars, Cadbury, and Hershey signed an agreement. They promised to solve the problem within 10 years. More than 20 years passed. Research in 2021 showed that about 1.5 million children were still working in dangerous conditions in Ghana and Ivory Coast. This number was higher than 20 years earlier. Companies made promises, they did not keep them. The average cacao farmer in Ivory Coast earns about $1 a day. But a chocolate bar in the supermarket costs a few dollars. Big companies make billions in profit. In the second half of the 19th century, chocolate factories opened everywhere. Switzerland, Belgium, England, and America stood out. Each country developed its own style. During World War I and World War II, chocolate was given to soldiers at the front. It was high in calories, easy to carry, and did not spoil. Soldiers who returned from war brought this habit back to their countries. In the 1950s and 60s, television advertisements turned chocolate into a symbol of happiness. Each brand created its own unique story. Chocolate was no longer just food. It was a gift, a way to express love. The reality behind this image was never discussed. Today, the chocolate industry is worth over $100 billion annually. Millions of tons are produced every year. In contrast, the average cacao farmer in Ivory Coast earns only a few $1,000s per year. These people provide the most basic ingredient of chocolate, yet they cannot access even a small part of this wealth. In recent years, fair trade products and small producers working directly with farmers have emerged. These are positive steps. But there is no major change. Large companies announce sustainability commitments. Some are real, some are just attempts to look good. Ghana and Ivory Coast have recently acted together. They announced that they would not sell cacao below a certain price. Major buyers resisted. The debates are still ongoing. Chocolate is a strange mirror of human history. On one side, there are thousands of years of culture and belief. On the other, there is exploitation, slavery, and greed. And in the middle stands chocolate, beautiful, sweet, familiar. This story is not just about a food. It is the story of how the powerful exploit the weak. The story of how bitter truths are hidden behind sweetness. We have come to the end of today's story. Take care.